Hello again and welcome to one of our leadership training videos. By now I hope you know that in these leadership training videos what I do is over a few minutes I just take you through some of my own experiences in terms of what the core elements of leadership are. So what are the leadership skills that you need? What are the leadership traits? What are the leadership abilities that you can acquire by looking at other people, learning through this particular leadership training video and various other aspects in your daily life? I always take a topic and I break it down into its simplest, I hope, and shortest form for you to be able to take in. So my name is Chris Igwe. I have over 35 years experience leading, training and developing teams across 5 major European markets, but also Europe, Middle East and Africa. Please feel free to like, share, comment, give me your feedback, your thoughts on any topic or any idea or aspect of this or previous videos that you might have looked at. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. So let's get going, let's get into it. And I think this is a very topical one for all of us to consider and bear in mind. Wherever we are on the leadership journey, how do you lead future generations? Now, future generations, it's not just about those to come. So in the case of my grandchildren, for example, but it's the fact that when you look at the Gen Z or the Gen Z population as it exists and the millennials, and I'll break those down for you in a minute, depending on the country or the geography, but it represents approximately 70% of the workforce today. 70% of the workforce is Gen Z or millennials within this leadership generation growth opportunity that exists. So how do you deal with them and how should we consider them? What are the main characteristics of millennials or Gen Z, and how can you look at that yourself? And of course, many of you, because I know the demographics, are millennials or Gen Z already who watch these leadership training videos, and for which I'm very grateful. So the key thing is, let's just take a moment to stop and think about how to lead future generations, let alone the existing one. So on the one hand, you need to start to understand the behaviors of both these particular groups, whether millennials or Gen Z. Now, millennials, for those of you, just to remind you, aged approximately 26 to 41 years old today. So this is my family, as it were, my children. So they are in that age range. So what are their behaviors and how have I learnt in order to address that going forward within the work environment? Well, one of the key things of millennials in particular is that there's this kind of positioning of push and pull. So there's times when you'll need to push them, they'll want to be pushed, and there's times when they want to push, pull, or be pulled themselves. And here's a typical example, I would say. It is on the one hand, millennials enjoy having a mentorship relationship with their boss or the senior management that they're dealing with, or indeed with their peers. They enjoy a mentor role. So that explains proximity. Proximity where the mentor is supporting them in that journey, helping them to understand what they need, there to listen to them and so on. And yet, they also want their space. They don't want to be overcrowded or overborne in terms of what's being done, and they want their distance. So this kind of situation which you'll have to read as a leader. What is the time when I have to step in, embrace, encourage, push, support, and the time when you want to step back and let him or her do what they need to do? So behaviorally, there is that very much plays in. And I've led teams, by the way, within both these categories, which is why I'm able to comfortably speak about them. And as I said, my children as well are within that. So what are some of the key things that the millennials are expecting of their leaders? Here are just a sample, but probably the most important ones, which, by the way, if you think about how leadership has been even 10, 15, 20 years ago, let alone 50 years ago, which was way more autocratic, perhaps. I tell, you do. I lead, you follow, that kind of thing. Well, there's none or less of that in today's work environment. They're looking for leaders with integrity, which, as you know, if you've been following me, that is probably my number one core element of leadership. That is my DNA, that is my core value, that is my modus operandi. It's to have integrity. They're looking for that in leaders. They're also looking at authenticity, which, yes, is a much used word today, but authenticity is about who you are, how they see you, and how you show yourself to them. The idea is not to hide behind different masks. It's about who you are and the authentic nature of your character. They look for transparency. So for example, how you deal with another millennial in the team or somebody of that same age, or it doesn't have to be millennial. The point is they want transparency, not only between their peers in the organization, but also in terms of how you deal with them. Anything from salary and pay increase to how you value their time, to how you talk to them. There's an expectation of transparency and being treated in exactly the same way. They're looking for empathy. I've talked in other videos about empathy. This is very much the currency of today's world. People need to know that you have that emotional intelligence, that connection with them that allows them to know that you care about them. But a very fundamental point here, work is not life. They don't go to work because that is where they're going to stay for the next 40 years or whatever, and they don't go there just because they want to earn money. That is not what motivates and drives them. Yes, they want money, but not in a circumstance where these things are not there in the leader that they're looking for. Therefore, work is not life. So be careful not to expect them to work 12-hour days or whatever. They will not do it, or they'll do it for a short period of time and then they will leave. They're also looking for these things, which are very, very important. They want to know that they can and do make a contribution to the company, to the team, to the project, whatever it happens to be. So you need to give them that value to know that they have a role and they are playing it well and can be seen and rewarded for it. And they want to be given responsibility. They don't just want to be told what to do. Yes, give them directions. That's what you should do as a leader or a manager, but they want to be given responsibility. So I just wanted to lay these out to you as you think about the ways in which you deal with these different categories, as it were, these big categories of members of your workforce. So what about the Gen Z? Well, Gen Zs overall are between the age of 10 and 25, roughly. So within the workforce, let's just take them as 18 to 25. In some countries and some cultures, it's down to 15 or 16, of course. But let's just use this as the core value. Well, one of the biggest things that you need to understand with that generation is that they have a multitude of layered in problems that we probably didn't have, or in many cases definitely didn't have. So they're worried about the future. We don't need to talk about inflation or energy prices, how to get on the housing ladder and find their first apartment, their first property. Can they afford it? In many cases, no. They're worried about the future, how they've struggled to get a job, how they see their friends struggling to get jobs despite super qualifications that they may have. So they're worried about where the future may go. They feel insecure for the reasons that are wrapped up in many of these areas: financial worries, financial challenges in their family. If they're a young family, they may already be married, maybe have children, the spouse or partner also working. Very challenging environments for them. So financial worries, they feel the system has failed them, whether it's the political, the government, the schooling system, whatever. They feel that there is a breakdown and a failure. So if you have the backdrop of this with those that are of that age group in your team, organization, or department, you start to understand that what your leadership qualities are going to be have to embrace these elements. They have to take them into account. Otherwise, you will not succeed, you will not lead them, and they will not succeed either in themselves. So these are just some of the underlying foundational elements that you need to consider for this particular age group. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, so what do they want? And more importantly, what do they need? It may not just be a question of want, but need. Well, they want to be inspired, they want to grow, and they want to be engaged in all that is going on in your team, department, company. Because there's a large proportion of them who actually want to start their own business. They have this entrepreneurial mindset or something going on in their mind, and they want to create something, they want to do something. Now, it's not about whether it's going to be successful or not. It's the fact that they want to start their own business, which then has to set off a light bulb in your mind to say, how do I keep them? Yes, we want them to grow and become leaders, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in that. But knowing that many businesses don't succeed straight away, how can you support them in that journey? So they want to be inspired, grow, and be engaged in whatever you're doing. And what they're looking for in you as a leader, again, like the millennials, they're looking for authenticity. They need to know that they can trust you. They need to know that who they're looking at has a track record in his or her field of experience, because these guys are less worried about titles. You can come to them with the biggest titles on the planet, which say that you're a CEO, managing director, whatever you happen to be, head of whatever region. That's not what they care about. So long as these things can't be fulfilled, it doesn't really matter. They're looking to be empowered, they're looking to be trusted, but they're looking to you to be able to trust them, and they look for being able to trust you as well. They're looking at empathy. So again, like the millennials, that emotional intelligence, empathetic piece. But they're also, unlike the millennials, they're looking for coaches. So that's where, if you remember, mentoring and coaching, two very different things, despite the fact that people confuse them. A coach is someone who's way closer. You're really supporting them in that journey. Imagine playing on the football pitch or golf or swimming or whatever it happens to be. You've got someone who is not only cheerleading you, but pushing you, making sure that you work hard, train hard, improve on all those skills that you need. They're looking for that in order to eventually end up doing whatever it is that they want to do. But the bottom line, as far as the Gen Z is concerned, what they most desire, and if you can get to this, this is the holy grail for you. They want, on the one hand, to be given responsibility, absolutely, as I said before, but they're also in this generation of speed is king. Whether it's speed to success or speed to failure, they don't like things slow. And I've seen this time and time again. So don't give them the long speech about how something should be done. Give them the basics, let them go with the responsibility, and then be there to coach and support and help them. And of course, they want to leverage technology. Goes without saying. That is a generation that lives off and lives through technology. So you need to give them the technological platforms and skills in your company, or you support them, whether it's through a more approachable form of communication through social media, which they might be more familiar with. Clearly depends on whether you choose that or not. And then they'll want regular feedback. Because as you let them loose with speed and responsibility and everything else, they'll want to know that they're on the right track. So don't give them feedback once every month or every 3 weeks or whatever you say, well, I'll get the team together and we'll talk about it. No, they want regular feedback. What's working, what isn't, how you deal with it, how you communicate with them. That's a whole different conversation. But they have this very clear and energetic no limit thinking. For them, there is no barrier, there is no limit to what they can achieve. So this is a fantastic generation, just like millennials and any other generation for that matter. I'm not saying which is better or worse. I'm simply saying that if you include a better knowledge and insight of how these particular groups function and how to get them to function together, because you don't have them in silos. Like I said, 70% of the workforce today has a combination of Gen Z and millennials. And of course, there are others beyond that, baby boomers, traditionals, and so on, who are included within that. So I hope this has helped give you some thoughts and ideas. Clearly, there is no absolute science around this. It's more a case of an awareness, and leadership is about awareness. That's where the empathy comes in. That's where the considering who, what, how, and why, and of course, fundamentally listening to what is going on. What is said and what is not said are equally valuable. So I hope this has helped give you some takeaway thoughts and ideas. Please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel so you know when other videos are becoming available. And until the next time, thank you.